I now have President of the FEOP Board of Trustees, Barbara Lord McLean, with me on stage. And now for our Legacy Award. This one going to a community member who has demonstrated a lifetime commitment to advancing diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in their own community at the UW and more.
Thank you, Ricky, and good evening, everyone. First, I want to say how eternally grateful we are that Angela King has again agreed to lend her time and talent to support current and future EOP scholars. This is Angela's 10th celebration gala as MC. She has helped bring together the community that is in this room tonight. On behalf of everyone here, I would like to say thank you, Angela. Let's give Angela a big round of applause. And now for tonight's Legacy Award. The Odegaard Award is named for the late UW president, Dr. Charles E. Odegaard. Each year, the Friends of Educational Opportunity Program Board of Trustees present this award to an individual, couple, or group whose commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging furthers Dr. Odegaard's vision from 55 years ago to create opportunities for underserved and underrepresented populations. A long list of community leaders have received this distinguished award since 1973. This year's recipient of the Odegaard Award, Chairman Leonard Forsman, exemplifies the essence of this award through his ongoing dedication to sovereignty, equality, and justice.
Chairman Leonard Forsman has been a longtime friend of OMAD and an ardent supporter of the university's efforts to create a more welcoming and culturally relevant campus for American Indian and Alaska Native students. His early support of Phase 1 of Waxhaw, the Intellectual House, helped make that dream a reality, and now his continued support of Phase 2 inspires us all to push forward toward completing the original project that was envisioned. Even before his appointment to the UW Board of Regents, Leonard was often on campus participating in Intellectual House events and student gatherings, a glowing role model for many of what leadership can and should look like. Leonard has a personal talent for building coalitions and bringing people together to discuss and solve complex and difficult issues. He has used his platform as a tribal leader and liaison to both Washington State and Washington, D.C. to protect tribal sovereignty, clean water, the environment, and wildlife, among many other causes. By extension, he has helped to improve the world, not just for the Suquamish tribe, but for all of us. Leonard has been a voice for those who have been marginalized, speaking up for those who experience discrimination or oppression, and we see the outcomes of his work in place today. They will continue to have ripple effects for generations to come. Please join me as we learn more in this short video featuring Chairman Leonard Forsman.
Well, my mom and dad were kind of divergent in a way because my mom was from the city of Baltimore and grew up in the city, and my dad was a Suquamish Indian and grew up on the beach, out here in a very rural area.
My mom instilled in us to be out there, not to be shut off from anyone. Go out in your community, you be part of it. And so all of us were brought to that realization very early in our lives. Everyone has importance, and that we should never ridicule anyone, never tease anyone. I think that has a lot to do with Leonard the way he is today.
My older brothers and then my oldest sister, who were very active in the civil rights movement and also in the Indian sovereignty movement, and were active in leading the tribe as well. Both two of my brothers were on council. My dad was the chairman for a while as well. And my sister was very engaged in Indian education. worked with a lot of the tribes and advocated for them, for the tribal students in the local school, the public schools. We had a lot of racism. That was what I all just kind of watched and learned from.
The Odegaard Award is the highest recognition for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging on our campus. Nominations and selections for this award are a very high bar to meet. Some past awardees include community organizers, artists, legislators, judges, and individuals whose work spans generations. The common thread has been their commitment to making their environments more welcoming, accessible, and equitable for all.
When I came back to the University of Washington, I got a part-time job here at the tribe, and I was helping to catalog historic photographs. So at that time, we were trying to build a museum. We had established archives, but we wanted a museum. We were partnering with the Burke Museum on developing a tribal museum, and they were working with us. They were working with Makah. They were working with Yakima on helping us get museums established. So that's when I migrated to anthropology. That was a place where I started to work with some of the Burke All-Stars. All those people were like in this energetic place of us restoring our culture through museum preservation. And so in 1983, we ended up opening our museum. That was the opportunity I had to work in both here, establishing our place, and then also learning and helping the Burke as well with the intertribal outreach. And I've continued to do that ever since. And one of the things that kind of circles back to us establishing our government, promoting our sovereignty and exercising our sovereignty, was public education.
And he is the first Indigenous regent that we've had in the 150-year history of the University of Washington. With Leonard, it's everything. He's a colleague that co-learns. He's a colleague that's a humanist. He's a colleague that, because he's a pioneer, recognizes his interesting role of being the first and what he represents to so many people, including myself.
We had a fishing issue that really was not a super tribal treaty issue, but it was between us and Suquamish. And so we sat down, chair to chair, as well as team, and talked about how we were going to resolve it. He does his homework, and he's looking for solutions. And that's what I really appreciated. Because we had differences of where we thought it could go, should go, he was always looking for the solution that everybody could get their arms around. That's what makes Leonard Forsman.
But one of the proudest times is when they got Old Man House Park back. That was one of his proudest moments. I know he had some to do with it, definitely not all. I think Benny Armstrong was very involved, and several other people, not tribal members, but some of the Suquamish community just formed this group called Suquamish Olala Group, and they worked with the parks, worked with the tribes, worked with everybody, and they got that piece of land back that meant so much to the tribe.
Coming home and seeing his family and spending time with us is like my huge thing that I love. But I love that he's done so much for many tribes around Washington and Oregon, and he's just really truly cares about the people and the environment.
Leonard has influenced the waterfront in that we think of it as being the settlers, the gold rush, but Leonard has helped that board reframe it. So let's name places that were very important to the indigenous people in which we're sharing the land.
He has the ability of asking us to dig deep, to really work hard for the common goal, and especially in Indian country, for the tribes, for whether it be treaty, whether it be for our sovereignty, whether it be for help and educate different government departments on their relationship with Native Americans. Leonard's on the forefront of that, and receiving the Charles Odegaard Award really accents the work that he's done, the excellent work that he has done, and he will be a model for many, many young Native Americans as they look forward into the future of what do they want to be, where do they want to go. He will be that shining light for them.
I look up to you always, and I thank you for my life, honestly. Thank you for making me do the homework. Thank you for sitting me down.
But in all seriousness, you certainly deserve this, and many more accolades are to come in your life.
I love you, brother. Thank you for saving my life. Thank you for saving so many of our lives here on the reservation, because we love you so much.
Well, Leonard, thank you for all you've done for Native country, and thank you for all you've done for your family, not just me and our girls, but for me and your brothers and my sisters and brothers. And if anybody deserves this award, it would be you. And I love you very much, dear.
And to Leonard, congratulations, well done. In our language, Osiam Haiska Tiguitsit. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. We are pleased to present the 2024 Charles E. Odegaard Award to Suquamish Tribe Chairman and UW Regent, Leonard Forsman.
We're almost there. Thank you, everybody, for everything tonight. And just I'd like to say Hak Shlahil. My name is Leonard Forsman, Chairman of the Suquamish Tribe, also President of Affiliated Tribes of Northwest Indians, and also a proud member of the Board of Regents here at the University of Washington. Go Dogs! And I was over there watching it with some friends over there. I'm glad I wasn't at the table. Not that I don't love my family, but I would not have been able to do it without crying more than I was over there. So I'd just like to thank the comms department, Eric and June, and everybody for doing such an awesome job with that video. Thank you. It's wonderful. And I just, usually I just speak from the, my hip and just kind of let it loose. And I had a couple council members here earlier, Azure Beret and Danita Holmes. I appreciate them coming to the celebration as well. But Eric said you should write a speech, so I wrote one. And it actually is pretty good, so I think I'm going to try to read it here. But I'll act like I'm not reading it. Okay, growing up in Suquamish in the 1960s and 70s was a fascinating experience. A small waterfront town with an overlay of ancient tribal culture and tangible presence. Over 100 years of intentional federal efforts to assimilate the Suquamish and erase our heritage. The establishment of the Port Madison Reservation by the 1855 Treaty of Point Elliott, signed by my ancestor, Chief Seattle, was followed by the division of our lands into single family-owned allotments. The forced attendance of our grandparents at the Tulalip boarding school and the Bureau of Indian Affairs sponsored sales of the family allotments at public auction. While my parents, James, a Suquamish Indian, Helen, a Baltimore native, returned to Suquamish after my father's service in World War II aboard the naval transport, the USS Leonard Wood, yes, I'm named for that, to raise their family, Mary and Jim, Tony, John, and me. Evidence of the assimilation was evident at home. Suquamish was populated by many non-natives clustered around the Mosquito Fleet ferry landings at Suquamish and Indianola, while some of our people lived on remnant allotments that were able to avoid the BIA auctions. We ran through the woods, played all the sports in the backyard, and were especially inspired by Sonny Sixkiller of the Cherokee Nation playing quarterback for our beloved Huskies. Yes. Jobs were hard to come by for our people, and our fishing rights were still being illegally restricted by the state of Washington. The BIA had essentially abandoned us after their destructive practices. In the 1960s, the Vietnam War, the civil rights struggle, and the war on poverty started to bring attention to the discrimination faced by minorities in our country. Tribal youth, almost entirely first generation, were attending college and learning more about these discriminatory government policies. My late sister Marion and my brother Jim were the first college students in our family and served as important mentors to me. Federal agencies started investing in our tribal government. Thus, the era of self-determination began. The days of our elders passing the hat to fund travel to obtain government services were replaced by our first tribal government employees. When I began my studies at the University of Washington as an EOP transfer student, I gravitated towards the American Indian Studies classes, where Marilyn Bentz, Vi Hilbert, Ed Watt, Barbara Lane, and Marvin Oliver served as faculty mentors to the American Indian students scattered across campus. And I would like to mention one of those students, Kurt Grinnell, late leader of the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe, is one of those students that I attended the University of Washington with. I also began taking anthropology classes, buoyed by my recent employment at Suquamish Tribal Archives, where I began to learn more about my family and tribal heritage through photos and documents. This led to a work-study relationship with the Burke Museum. Is the Burke still here? All right. As we began to fulfill the mission of Tribal Chairman Lawrence Webster of building our own museum. Here, Dr. Nason, Bill Holm, Robin Wright were helping tribes establish their respective cultural facilities, including the Makah and Yakima, and I would soon become director of our museum and also a member of our tribal council, serving with my first supervisor and colleague, Charlie Saigo. We would be active in promoting cultural resource protection through the late 1980s, leading to the first canoe journey during the 1989 Washington Centennial. Thus began a period of great cultural resurgence fed by our museum exhibits and programs. The canoe journey grew into a vast intertribal expression of our ancestral traditions as our youth and elders returned to the waters of the Salish Sea. Cedar canoes, traditional regalia, language, songs, and dances all began to return. After a stint working for an archaeological consulting firm, I returned to the tribe as an employee, as I'd also met and married my wife, Jana Rice, and we raised our daughters, Lauren and Chelsea. The tribe elected me as their chairman in 2005, and it was time for us to prepare to host the 2009 Canoe Journey, its 20th anniversary. Inspired by the big houses we saw in our canoe travels at Vancouver Island, we sought to build our own in the tradition of Old Man House, the massive winter house at Chief Kitsap and Chief Seattle that hosted ancestral gatherings since the late 1700s. The United States destroyed the house in 1870 as part of its early efforts to erase our culture and spirituality. We not only had the return of Old Man House Park to the tribe in 2005, but we completed construction of the House of Wake and Culture in 2009 to successfully host the canoe journey in Suquamish. As chairman of the Suquamish tribe, I continue to engage with the University of Washington's annual summits between tribal leaders and the UW presidents, including, don't say anything, but to the other presidents, my favorite, President Kalse. One of our biggest accomplishments was the construction of the intellectual house on campus, which is serving as a catalyst to recruit and retain American Indian students here on campus. The Office of Minority Affairs and Diversity was key through the leadership of Sheila Edwards-Lang, tribal faculty, and numerous tribal elders in getting it built. We know she is working with her successor, Ricky Hall, and President Kalse to finish phase 2. I've also been very active on an intertribal basis, protecting tribal sovereignty, our natural cultural resources, improving tribal student graduation rates, and growing our tribal economies. I've had great opportunities to work with local, state, and federal government officials on educating them about the government and trust responsibility they hold to tribes. Being elected as AT&I president in 2017 is one of my proudest moments. In closing, I'd like to thank my family. I love you all. My tribe, the Suquamish tribe, past and present tribal council members, Governor Inslee, my fellow regents, all for their support over the years, and more recently. I'm a proud member of Husky Nation. The university has achieved a lot in supporting tribal students with the hiring of great tribal staff. Some of them are here tonight. Shanor Henry, Sherry Burdine, Casey Weinkoop. We also have great tribal faculty, including Charlotte Cote, Jean Dennison, and Belardi Lewis, yes, that continue to serve our students as teachers, mentors, friends, and advisors. We must continue to support them. And as UW has made a great beginning in advancing American Indian success here on campus, it still has a long way to go. And with that, I will say one of my favorite words in Lashute Seed is a hoeth chud, which means I am finished.
And As you can see, we're holding on to Regent Forsman just for a little bit longer because it's my pleasure to introduce Shanoa Henry, who has a very special presentation. She is the director of the Washoe Intellectual House here on campus.
Thank you. As she said, my name is Shanoa Henry. I'm the director of West Laval Intellectual House. I'm a Tulalip tribal member, and I'm joined by Casey Winecoop and Michael Yates to blanket Leonard today. It is a cultural tradition to blanket those we are honoring and celebrating, and we want to, from West Laval, thank you for all the work that you've done to advocate for Native students, the Native community, and of course your ongoing support for the Phase 2 project. Tigwiti, thank you.
Beautiful way